Opponents of stricter gun control legislation have spoken out against tactics claiming that victims of gun violence are being used as props during the debate and unfairly influencing lawmakers. Kevin, I want to start with you because you were mentioned in the Salon article that is in our resource well, one of the key articles that we would like people to take a look at for the purposes of this conversation. And Salon said about a national review, quick update, I think it's fair to say that you wrote, the National Review's Kevin Williamson criticized Giffords in a particularly ugly way, saying, quote, "It should be noted that being shot in the head by a lunatic does not give anyone any special grace to pronounce upon public policy questions." Now, I mean, how do you feel, in retrospect after writing that? Would you write it any differently after having written it like that?
No, what I read is true and unarguably true. There are terrible things that happen to people, but the fact that something terrible happens to you doesn't give you any special understanding of the situation, nor does it give you any special understanding of the complex public policy questions attached to it, any more than losing a loved one in a car accident makes you an automotive engineer, or having heart trouble makes you a cardiac surgeon. The case of Gabby Giffords, I think it's important to understand the particular phenomenon that we're talking about here, and that phenomenon is celebrity. She's a celebrity shooting victim. Before that, she was a relatively undistinguished 2.5-term member of Congress. Before that, she was a fairly obscure state legislator. She is known, and people pay attention to her pronouncements on this subject because of a particular experience that happened to her, not for any particular powers of analysis or for original thinking or insightful commentary on the issue. In fact, if anything, her commentary in the New York Times, which I was responding to, was the opposite of insightful. It was ad hominem, childish, referring to people as cowards for having public policy preferences at variance with her own. And, it's a classic ad hominem sort of line of argument. And there's a reason that ad hominem is considered a famous logical fallacy, because it's unenlightening.
How does this differ, Kevin, from a situation in which, maybe a war policy is altered because of, firsthand accounts from civilians affected by policy in combat or in a battlefield?
Yeah, again, I think all information has to be judged as information. And, the truth is the truth, regardless of who says it. Insights are insights, regardless of the source. So, unless there's some particular reason that you think that something should carry some special weight because of the source that it's coming from, then you treat information as information. We often see this, especially in the subject of war. You'll have people coming back from these horrible, unspeakable situations and then being asked questions about large strategic objectives and tactical questions and those sorts of things about which they have no special knowledge, about which they have no special understanding, but because they've been in an on-the-ground situation, we treat their opinions as though they were somehow more informed than they actually are.
But don't they have a first-person understanding of an account? Say even a victim of sexual abuse or sexual assault was raised in the comments on HuffPost Live right now while we're having this conversation. It's almost inarguable to say that they don't have a better understanding of what it's like to be a victim of those crimes than...
Well, for instance, if you have some questions about how should we handle questions related to parole and rehabilitation of sexual offenders, there's just some difficult questions, and they're complicated questions. Having been a victim of a sexual assault doesn't give you any special understanding. It gives you an understanding of what it's like to be a victim of sexual assault, which of course is a horrible thing, but that in and of itself doesn't confer any special understanding of the larger issues. These are plainly and unarguably true statements, but they're statements that make us uncomfortable because we have sympathy for people who've been through bad situations, and therefore we feel the need to, add a little something extra to our evaluation of their thoughts and their opinions on the subject, even though it's not actually warranted.
David, Zach, jump in here. You agree with Kevin?